Okay, I'll declare this meeting in order. Can we stand for the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. If you have a cell phone, would you please silence it? We'll begin with the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move that the minutes be accepted as they had been corrected.
Okay, as corrected? Okay.
Yes.
Second to that motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the minutes as corrected. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Do you want to do the special minutes and everything too right now?
Why don't we go through this?
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
please.
The commissioners met in special session on the 30th, and do you have a copy of those minutes?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I see.
I've read through them, if you'll take my word for it. Okay.
Just this one time.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of their special meeting?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion to second, excuse me, made and seconded to accept the minutes of our special meeting on January 30th. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. And what else?
We had the special session on January 15th, which was the tour of the facilities,
Okay.
just for the record.
The commissioners toured all of our county facilities with the exception of the highway garage and the community corrections on January 15th. And we announced it as an executive or special session rather because we couldn't really advertise the place where we were meeting because we were meeting several different places. The reason for the tour was to look at our facilities, get an idea if we have problems so we can address the problems. I think that we'll probably do that at least next year, and next year's my last year here, so, or end of my term. So I know we'll do it next year. So that was the reason for that. So, motion to accept those minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the special.
Second.
Sure.
Motion made and seconded to accept those minutes. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 3 ayes.
And the last is the executive session of the 23rd.
Okay, and there are no minutes of the executive session, but we need a motion to approve signing those. That was on the 23rd?
Yes.
23rd in our executive session.
I make a motion to accept those.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the minutes of the, excuse me, not the minutes, but the signing for that of our executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, 3 ayes.
That's all.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the board appointments for the tourism board.
Oh,
Is there a
I
motion?
make a motion that we appoint Jennifer Bedore to that
Okay.
position.
The motion's made to appoint Jennifer Bedore, which is Commissioner Bedore's wife. Just so everyone understands, this is an unpaid position. There is no pay, there is no compensation whatsoever. We checked with the attorney, it does not violate the nepotism law or anything of that nature. However, he cannot vote. So I'm going to pass the gavel to him and second the motion, and then you'll take it from there.
All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one, area planning, Bill McDaniel. Is he here? Okay.
It was a few minutes ago.
Mr. Gray? Bill?
Oh, me?
Yes.
I don't have a whole lot. Water valves throughout the courthouse, what I'm working on right now. I've got a bunch of them down, and they're just wearing out. So it's just a matter of taking them apart, put parts in, and put them back together. So,
Okay.
probably today.
Let me look at this. It's a contract, I think, for the controls for the courthouse and the other 3 buildings, but I'm really not quite sure what it is.
That looks like the control contract.
I didn't see a signature line on there though, is there?
No.
Will
This
you-
should have been in the original contract.
Will you make sure Mrs. Waker gets a copy of that or gets that if you need it, please?
Yeah, but this should have been, let me look, you got the original contract?
Um,
Okay, that's fine, I've got it. Let me look at it and see what this is. It looks like controls. And I'll find out. But the price looks like the control. But I'll check it, man.
Have we approved that? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
that's been approved.
It has been approved. We were just waiting for the attorney just to review the language. He said that was okay, and once the contract comes in, that just needs to be signed off on by the commissioners.
Is that an actual contract?
This is not.
It's a bill, isn't it?
I'll get over them this morning.
Okay.
Happy. Everything we need down here. I'm gonna look at this first, but I'm pretty sure that this is controls. And I don't know why they would do, no, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're still waiting for the commissioners to actually sign off on the actual contract.
Do we have that?
Did I give that back to you? If
I
not, the
believe I have a copy in my office, but not the original.
original, I'll take care of that. Okay. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Appel?
I don't have anything that needs to be discussed right now unless there's direct questions to me.
I have, this is a copy of agreements filed by the Highway Department. They did ask for an extension, and I granted it. I gave them 15 days. He said he couldn't imagine needing that much time, but they do have 15 days. Okay? From 15 days starting yesterday. Bill?
All right, well, 3 items. First one is a letter was received from Jerry Terrell at the 40 and 8. It's about withdrawing the original rezoning petition from the A2 to the I1 to the industrial district. There's a second letter, it was from FEMA, and it was just a reminder to deliver the ordinances to the DNR Division of Water prior to by February 18th. I sent those out for the city and the county on Friday. That gives us, it's 3 weeks to spare before the deadline. Another thing I'd like to bring to the attention of the commissioners is you're aware I've sent you some emails, forwarded some emails concerning Senate Bill 249, which is the Senate bill to preempt local zoning ordinances with regards to confined feeding. Just to let you know that there's an amendment yesterday to the bill in committee, and it was forwarded to a study committee for the summer session, and it's to be done by, my understanding is Purdue, to take a look at the various, what the various communities have and find out the range of their ordinances. And I think the commissioners are aware of the concerns that I included in my email to Senator Lysing. I haven't heard anything back from Senator Lysing concerning my email. Okay, but I think people need what to understand is that with this preemption of the local ordinance, which means what we had adopted, because it's more stringent than the IDEM rules for getting a permit, would be null and void. You couldn't adopt anything that's more stringent. And the IDEM rules, what they currently do, they're just concerned about, essentially it's a discharge permit, National Pollution Discharge Permit, NPDES permit. It's basically what you have.
Excuse me just a minute. For those who don't quite understand, Senate Bill 249 is sponsored by Senator Lysing, and what that does, it's basically going to preempt local control over confined feeding operations. And
That is correct.
And so that if the bill passes, then local control and ordinances in controlling confined feeding operations will be pretty much null and void. So basically, the state's going to take control over it by statute.
Yeah. So all would require essentially then is the permit that is issued by IDEM, which is primarily just concerned with water pollution. So they don't take in, it doesn't consider emissions, does not consider odor, doesn't consider the potential effects on the property values of neighboring residential properties. So, and it doesn't take into consideration the possibility of permanent drawdown on wells, which I don't know if anybody recalls, the first, in the time I've been here, the first petition we had for confined feeding was actually rejected. And the reason it was rejected was because it's in a location of already with seasonally low well drawdown. Now, what happened with that, and the person that made the recommendation is actually another farmer, made the recommendation to reject the ordinance because of permanent drawdown of people's wells, because of permanent damage in someone's property value. And that's why the zoning board rejected that. The second two were approved. Now, I was requested by the board of, the Area Plan Commission to draw up the new rules. It's about a 2 or 3 year process. And the idea was they wanted a more rational process to review these petitions for confined feeding, try to make it more objective and take a lot, as much as possible, take a lot of the emotion out of presentations, and then also allow the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board to say, okay, these are what we have to look at. A lot of the extra things, the emotions, allows the boards to actually have some rational standards to base their decision on.
So, I can't remember, is this session of the legislature a long session or a short session?
I think it's a long session this year.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So,
And,
we can expect a decision on this sometime between now and
Well, they're
1st of April.
supposed to come back, I think, something like November 1st. The study committee is supposed to come back with their information for the Senate. So so this is just what's going on with it.
Okay.
And whether or not it's something that if the Plan Commission would want to revisit it because we do have very strict rules. And Senator Lysing is using us as the example of what's wrong with. She's calling it an effective moratorium, which it isn't. Just makes it very difficult to place confined feeding in Fayette County.
On the, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On the application for 40 and 8, you said that's been withdrawn.
Correct.
Has it been reapplied for? In a
They
different-
reapplied for one to rezone from A2 to general business. That will be on the agenda for the Area Plan Commission on next Monday, Monday the 9th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And if there's any other questions on these,
Any questions? Any questions?
or comments?
I
Okay,
think so.
great, thank you.
sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Corum.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ain't too much going on. We're kind of at a standstill waiting on things to thaw out. Start get back into ditching and berming again. We're out sweeping roads today from the salt sand. That way clean up the intersections. These links sliding off into the intersections. I've got the layout on them uniforms. I don't know if you guys remember us talking about that.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. So did you get a copy of the UniFirst contract to Chris? Have you done that?
I believe we did that. Is that what I brought down the other day? I can't remember.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And that's fine at first. You have to get, you guys have to decide, give him permission to rescind the current contract. and then enter into the agreement with UniFirst.
Okay. So, do you have the contract that we need to sign, or we can just authorize?
Well,
they
I
can
mean, we
au-
should,
I'm sorry.
they're gonna have to continue, we have to give them 30 days
Okay.
notice.
All right. Okay.
So then we should probably sign it the next meeting, just so they can get started. I mean, depending on what you guys decide.
So once we vote on it, he has to stay with Cintas for 30 days, and then in 30 days, we sign a new contract with UniFirst, correct?
Or, I mean,
We can actually.
we could sign that and see, make it contingent on services starting
Okay.
after the Cintas' service at sea.
Mr. President, you need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve the UniFirst contract for new uniforms for the highway garage,
And to terminate.
and what?
And to terminate the old.
And to terminate the old one, yes. Thank you.
There's a motion motion on the floor to approve the contract with UniFirst and to give 30 days notice to Cintas that we're terminating our agreement. Is there a second?
I second.
Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Anything else, sir?
I think that's it. I may have some questions after the meeting or something.
Okay. That'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. King?
This is the same job description that you guys had approved, or actually, two of you had approved in May, when Ben first came to try to get the part-time positions. This was on, I think it was the May 7th meeting. Skylar's last day is this Friday. I just want to get him, open that up to get it replaced, so I have a part-timer here. Without the part-timer, it's really hard to keep up on both the city and the county moving forward with things, plus handling the regular day-to-day stuff. So I'm not saying any more pay or any higher duties or anything, just basically the same as what we've got now.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we give Michael approval to
Advertise.
advertise for an IT person.
Second.
Motion on the floor, a second, to approve the advertising for the position for the part-time for IT. Is there a question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Other things I got to report is this Thursday, we're putting a new server in place for corrections for their database system. It also handles the probation database, the old system. They still use that for archive purposes and looking at old records, but they don't really use it in probation anymore other than the old stuff. Corrections, they still use it daily, so I'll be putting that in place on Thursday. Repurposing the machine that we already had, so it's not costing the county any more money. And the final thing I want to report is I'm actually taking 5 classes at the moment. 2 of them are security related, one's cryptography and one's hardware security. The other 3 are programming classes. These are all free that I'm taking online, just to expand, hopefully improve what we've got here and do some of the stuff in-house when we can, for like programming and that kind of thing. So,
Good.
any questions for me?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the sheriff here?
Yes, sir.
You've never called me sir before.
Usually call you something else when everybody's not around.
First time for everything, right?
That's all right. There's several lives to prove.
Just for the camera, sir.
Okay, first thing that I have, and I gave to the auditor, is we have 144s to approve for ask for your approval. The first is a road deputy position that we filled at the merit board meeting 2 weeks ago, and Kyle Miller was the unanimous choice from the merit board. I accepted the merit board's recommendation, and Kyle has been with the department for 2.5 years. He served as a court officer, done an excellent job. Everybody in the courthouse has a very high opinion of Kyle, so he's currently training our new court officer, but he's going to make a fine deputy. And I said that before in our final three. The last commissioners meeting is probably the best final three that I've seen in my time there in my 15 years. So Kyle is the road deputy position. The other is a jail officer position, and that is Barandis Watkins. He is works at Community Corrections now, and he would be filling the empty jail spot that Kyle is leaving, the road deputy position.
Sheriff, would you repeat his name again?
Barandis Watkins.
Would you spell his first
Barandis,
name?
common spelling. B-A-R-A-N-D-U-S.
Thank you for the record.
Okay.
For the record, I think the merit board and you made a good decision with Mr. Miller. I think I've met him a few times, and he appears to be a very good young man.
Yeah. He's pretty squared away.
Is there a motion to approve the 144 as presented by the sheriff?
I make a motion to approve Joey's recommendations.
Second.
Motion to approve, and second.
Sheriff's.
Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
All right. Next thing is vehicles. I have 2 bids. One is an email with the price quote in it from Advantage Ford. The other is a quote from Reedman's. It's kind of comparing apples to oranges. Those are the police vehicles that we've purchased in the past. The Explorer, it's been a while since we've had an Explorer, but that's the quote from Advantage with the trade-in of our Durango, which would be my Durango that I'm driving now. It has 65,000 miles on it. That's 2012, and also we have a 2008 Durango that Bobby Reveley is currently driving that has 175,000 miles, and that's also including the money that we had to spend. And the other quote from Reedman's gets us right at the money, within $1. That's including the trade-in and the discount that we got, so the government discount. So like I said, it's comparing apples to oranges. I wanted to stay in 4-wheel drives. We've not had to replace the front end since we've went to the 4-wheel drives. There's still at least 3 creeks that we have to cross if we respond to somebody's house. The roads are rough on the vehicles, especially the front wheel drive vehicles. So I'd like to stay in the 4-wheel drives. I sent out an email to every sheriff in the state asking what they're buying, who they're buying them from, and the prices. And nobody could, in great testament to our local dealers, nobody could get close to the prices that we got locally. So I wanted to buy locally. I just wanted to make sure that nobody was going to come in $5,000 cheaper, but nobody did. Nobody could touch, especially Reedman's quote. So
For those of you that don't know, there are some places in the county that the homes are on the other side of a creek, and there are no roads or bridges over that creek, and 2-wheel drives, depending on how high the creek is, just don't work. And there are also times in the county where they're required to run off road into the brush and up hills, etc. So a truck makes sense. So your quote from Reedman, minus the trade-in, okay, is $26,097, correct?
Right.
And the quote from Advantage Ford is $32,411.
that's, yeah.
And your recommendation is?
Is to go with Reedman's. It's going to get us, like I said, I think the total with everything with Reedman's is going to be $52,195, and $52,194 is what we have. So going to get us within $1.
52.
Yeah, total with What we had, the two vehicles
Gotcha,
plus the
okay.
trade-ins,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to approve the sheriff's recommendation to go with Reedman.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the sheriff's recommendation to go with Reedman Motors presentation. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 3 ayes.
Okay. And two more things, if I may.
Yes.
This brought to my attention this morning, and during the commissioner's visit and council as well, a few weeks ago, you guys noticed some of the problems we have in the jail. One of those is the glass in H block, and I was notified by one of the jail officers this morning that that glass is starting to come in to the pod. So it is of the utmost emergency that we get that replaced.
Get it fixed. It's an emergency. We'll take care of it later.
Okay. And Bill, I spoke to Bill about that. He's gonna make a phone call this morning, so quick as possible.
Just for your information, I think I told you, I did type up a summary of our visit to the jail and the other county facilities, and I've presented that to the council people. And I will talk about it tonight, but I don't like to talk about security matters, so some things may be kind of veiled, but hopefully we can get some things done.
And just to note, also, the last time I was here, we talked about the control issue, and I did submit a cheaper quote to replace that, because we did remove 2 of the terminals out of there. It was going to be initially 4 terminals, now it's down to 2. We've got by with that, and I actually think the other 2 may present some security issues without going into a lot of detail. So
Okay.
that's all I got. Any questions on that?
No?
Yep,
Good
thank
job.
you guys, appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Michelle, community corrections?
The folder that I gave you contains applications of prospective part-time facility officers. I have lost 3 in the last 6 weeks. One's going to the jail, one went to the animal shelter. I terminated one, so I need to hire at least 3 part-time officers. And I'd like your approval to hire from that pool there.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Michelle, is there specific ones? You just want approval to hire from this group of people?
Yes, that's what I've done before. I still want to interview them. I've done background checks. I've interviewed a few of them. There are some that, the top 3 in there that stand out over the others, but I'll need to hire at least 3.
I make a motion that we have Michelle to hire 3 people to replace the ones that she has just lost.
Second.
Motion to approve the hiring of 3 individuals to replace the vacant positions at Community Corrections. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 3 ayes.
The only other thing I have is to report that the Indiana Department of Corrections auditors were here on January 20th, and they audited the grant year, fiscal year 2013 to 14, which we completed June the 30th of 2014. They found no violations, and they agreed with us that we had spent down all funds, so there was no carryover.
You know, We're gonna have to put a gold star by your name sometimes, you know.
There you
You keep
go.
getting all these good reports. Thank you.
Let's just keep it that way. Thank you.
You're welcome. Warren? Surveyor?
Morning.
Good morning.
Under old business, start off with Bridge 25. We talked about the last meeting that we wanted to delay. NDOT was suggesting we delay the project because of historical reasons until the fall 2018. And so suggested I talk to the bridge inspection consultant, and I did get a report from them, and they inspected it last September, and they said it's in poor condition, and it's mainly scar critical, which is washing out the piers, and suggested that we put riprap, big stones at each pier to reduce that, and he didn't think it would be too bad that it could hold up for a couple more years. Of course, you can't give 100%, but they will inspect it every year. It's one of the special bridges that we have to have an inspection every year. So,
I think one of the concerns is that whether or not that bridge will be on the route when they start transporting windmill materials. So, do you think it will handle?
no, I wouldn't allow windmills on. They'd have to go around. It's 10 tons. It's the posted limit now.
Okay.
So they couldn't use that.
So we'd have to use an alternate route.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to Greenfield to meet with NDOT officials on a quarterly meeting, just a scheduled meeting, so I'd like to tell them it'd be okay, if that's what you think, to delay the project. I think it's still hard to get be a hard chore to get to March 2017 letting because of the historical documentation required.
I personally have no problem with it. I mean, they're the experts, you're the expert. I'm not in a position, and they say you or them, either one. But is there a motion?
I make a motion, we delay Bridge 25 and just review it every year and see if it's still holding up to where we can still use it with safety for the citizens of the county.
There's a second. There's a motion on the floor to grant approval for the delay of the Bridge 25 project per the state's request, and also to review the status on a yearly basis. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Is there anything else?
Okay, I have a letter here to NDOT to close out a project. It's the Whitewater Valley Depot, which has been moved from Rushville down to 121 and the bypass. And they're requesting your signature on that letter.
If I understand correctly from what we've talked before, closing out the project means that any leftover funds will no longer be available, and the project is officially closed and inactive. Is that correct?
Yes, I've talked to the Whitewater Valley Railroad officials, and they are wanting to use some of the money for additional right-of-way, but NDOT officials say that's outside the original scope of the project.
Okay.
And if they want additional money, they'll have to reapply. And so they have to go through the next call out for new projects.
Okay.
So,
I make a motion, we close this project out.
Okay, and authorize me to sign that.
Yes.
There's a motion and a second to close out the project for the Whitewater Valley Railroad Depot and allow me to sign this. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Hang on a minute and I'll sign this for you, Warren.
okay.
Do you need a copy, Gertrude?
Yes, please.
I'll give this to her, she'll get a copy and you can pick it up. Yes, sir. Anything else?
Yes, I've been going through the process of hiring a full-time secretary, and I made a choice, and I have a Form 144 for the base salary, which is $16,747 for that position.
Okay. Need a recommendation?
Yeah, I've talked to her, and I've interviewed maybe 7 total for the position. I think this lady that'll do me, the secretary in the county, a good job.
Okay, and who is that?
Well, she hasn't given notice to her present employer, so I wish that it remained anonymous at the present time. I sent you an email.
Yes.
It says the lady I discussed with you earlier.
Try to say again the issue.
I'm sorry.
He wants to hire someone for the secretary's position in his office. He doesn't want to give the name because she's not given notice to her present employer. So, okay. Keep it anonymous.
We just give them the permission to hire someone.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we give Warren permission to hire this current person that he's been looking at.
Okay. And after she has given her notice, will you bring us back a 144 just for the record so we can give it to Gertrude?
Okay.
There's a motion on the floor to approve, allow Mr. Sudoff to hire someone to replace his vacant position in his office. Is there a second?
Second.
Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3 ayes.
That's all I have.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mike? Council representative?
Morning.
Morning.
I don't have anything on behalf of the council unless you have something for us.
I'll be at your meeting tonight. I just want to talk about the inspection and the facilities inspection. Also, we have received a bill from Mr. Hall and Umball, and present that to the council tonight.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't have anything.
All right.
Any questions of the council representative?
No?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Terry, you have a 10 o'clock appointment?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to jump schedule here just a minute and let Terry go ahead real quick.
It's actually very important. We were on the agenda today for Bill Munson and I. We were trying to find what it means to get EMS off of CPD frequency. That's what my 10 o'clock meeting is. We are not prepared to present that to the commissioners yet, as we're still talking to several different vendors. So we don't have prices yet on that. So that's prolonged for the second time. My apologies for not making it at the last meeting. But thank you for approving the full-time employee. She's doing fantastic. I have the 2014 annual report that I wanted to review, and I'm going to do it fairly quick so I can make it to my appointment. Basically, I had one of my dispatcher's son in there helping me, so it's CJ's problem when it's upside down. I noticed some of the parts were. As of the 31st, we have 1 director, 6 full-time, and 8 part-time. There's still no issues with our radio consoles or anything like that. Our computers, I gotta say, I'm seeing a lot of Mike King lately that I like Mike King, but I'm tired of looking at him. He put in a hard drive yesterday for us for our recorder issue, some different things. So we are going to start trying to trade out a lot of our computers that are in there. They've been in there since 2010, 2011, and that was our goal, was to try to have those last for 4 or 5 years. So we're going to try to look at some of that. Our 911 system is still Next Gen compliant, which is wonderful. 911 can now receive incoming and outcoming 911 text messaging. We've used it quite a bit. It's not really out there that much, so people are not using it that much. We love it. It's next gen, it's next generation 911. The next step will be that people will be able to text us pictures of accidents. We can be able to push those out to our first responders so then they can actually see what they're going to. Fayette County was one of the first to go live with the Texty is what they call it. As far as training, I received my emergency number professional certification, which is a national certification, pretty intense certification to get. Also, I am still the CTO. I'm actually currently the only CTO, which is a certified communication training officer in the department. The other ones that we have trained have moved on to other agencies. And I can also instruct the ADCO. All of the dispatchers are all certified in emergency medical dispatch. They are certified in IDACS and NIMS 100 and 700. We conduct in-house training of 2 hours every month. I put those on, so dispatchers receive a minimum of at least 24 hours of training every year. And our Everbridge emergency notification system, as of right now, or December 31st, we had 9,107 people signed up for the Everbridge. That's an increase of 600 people from last year. There are 18,010 contact ways for our citizens to be contacted. That's not including our emergency services back end of our Everbridge. That's an increase of 1,000 from last year as well. We're continuing to go to the schools, the fair booths, everything that we can to educate everybody about it. We sent out the Everbridge emergency notification for some snow levels, government closings, road closings, boil water, school delays, and we use it daily with our emergency services. The feedback of that, citizens are still loving it, our emergency services are still loving it, and it's getting to be an invaluable tool. As far as our 911 call volumes, the wireless phones are still increase. It's just, we've seen that trend coming for the last couple of years. As far as the wireline, which are our home phones and business phones, for the year we received 1,682 of those calls, which is a decrease of 46 calls. Of our cell phones, of the wireless, we received 8,643 calls, which is an increase of 1,275 calls from 2013. Our voice over internet protocol, which is called VoIP, we received 528 calls, which is an increase of 56 calls from last year. Those are, we hate those calls in dispatch because wherever your server is for those calls, that's what mapping information we receive. So they may have the internet provider in California and be in Indiana, and we're getting mapping in California. So those take a lot of work to track down the mapping for those. For the non-service initialized phones, which are cell phones that are not in service, prepaid phones that don't have minutes, those we had 660 calls, which is an increase of 229 calls. On those, we do not get mapping location either. We do not get callback information. Those are just basically once they call us, we get connection. That's all we have. That brings a total of 11,513 total calls, and that is an increase of 1,514 calls from last year. Next in the packet, you'll see the monthly charts. We can bypass those.
Just to give a little perspective here, I wasn't being rude, I was trying to.
No,
figure
you're
something
okay.
out. The 11,513 total calls, that's an average of 31 and a half calls a day.
Those
So-
are just 911 calls.
Just
Those are
911
not the
calls.
calls that come in on the non-emergency line either. And keep in mind, one call may generate 3 agencies on that one call. If it's an accident with injuries, we're going to be sending 3 agencies. So it's a lot. It's as you can see the trend. That's why I put the 13 in there. It's increasing. No, you're okay. The incidents that we did for the Connersville Police Department, We had 11,278 incidents, which that's a decrease of 773. Along with the Sheriff's Department, we had 4,538 incidents, which is a decrease of 2,632 incidents. Those were huge red flags for me. So of course I called the deputy chief yesterday. They stopped creating calls for their business checks, which were an average of 8 a day. So that is where their reduction of incidents is coming from. Our EMS, we had 2,490 incidents, which is an increase of 12 incidents from 13. The Connersville Fire Department, 1,099 incidents. It's an increase of 140. Glenwood Fire, 155 incidents, which is an increase of 8. Everton Fire, we had 322 incidents, and that's their magic number for 2013 as well. Bentonville, we had 129, and that is a decrease of 22 incidents. So not much of a change in our call level there. The total is 20,011 incidents, which totals a decrease of 3,267, which, like I said, a lot of those are the building checks and the area checks that the officers and the deputies do. If you continue on in your report, you can bypass, I've given you every agency, times that most of the calls came, given you a printout of every type of call that all of the agencies have responded to. You can look at that at your own leisure. And if you go on back to, starts out public education. Our public education, we were able to set up a booth at the fair. We had our 911 vendor sponsor us t-shirts to educate about the texting. We are hoping to still continue to do that. We do the parade float. We talk about it every time that we can. Social media is huge. We do not have a Twitter or anything like that, but we do maintain a Facebook page. It's monitored by myself and Supervisor Kelly Van Meter. It reaches 4,157 people. And that is huge because most of those people will turn around and share the information. We will put school closings on there, how to sign up for the Everbridge, the traffic levels, the weather levels, things like that. Our 911 surcharges have remained the same for 2014. There is a bill that's going to be going for legislation to increase those to $1. But currently it is still the 50 cents for the prepaid phones, which as you can see is a growing trend from our phone calls, and 75 cents for landlines and wireless telephones. Our budget, we received...
Excuse me, it's going to $1 for both wireless and landlines?
If it passes.
If it passes.
If it passes. It's in the very early stages. For the budget, we received $292,330.91 from surcharge money, and the city gave us a contribution of $120,000. And you can see the January 14 balance and the December 14 balance with all of our incoming money and what we spent. Basically, it cost me $45,502 to run the center. This is the first year that, since I've been director, that we have not made money. So, got to keep a close eye on that because, I mean, obviously my dispatchers received some raises, but we also weren't anticipating the difference of the city as well on that too, so that probably played a part in that as well. So, but overall, numbers are increasing, but about the same. So, and I'll be here tonight to do this again. So.
Are there any questions? I would like to have a motion to go ahead and include this, incorporate this into the record, and that way the auditor can keep a copy of it and make a notation in the minutes that she has in such and such a file. There's a motion on the floor to incorporate these into our minutes. Is there a second? Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Carrie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Mail?
There was a letter received by the Fayette County Cemetery Commission. It's a review of their 2014 year, their operations, the work they did on the cemeteries. It's pretty self-explanatory for the commission to look at.
Okay.
Second item that was received is Jacqueline Clements with Maximus, which is our consultant that does all the indirect recovery costs for Fayette County. Just dropped off the 2014 plan as well, showing the reimbursements to the county of $55,231.
Just so you understand, this is reimbursement for the child support division
the grant
in the
program.
prosecutor's office.
Correct.
$55,231.
And last is a vehicle recall. I believe we have to find out what vehicle this is related to. It's from Ford. I believe it's on one of our service vehicles.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Next, we'll go to old business. Ms. McCarty?
I'm here today to tell you about a transposition of an address on our spreadsheet that we had submitted to you on our recommendations for the construction awards. On your first sheet, you will see that there are two addresses highlighted. They are both South State Road 1. And those were just transposed between those two contractors. So on the second one, which is an addendum to your awards, we have put them under the correct contractor, and also adjusted the dollar amounts per contractor accordingly.
Okay.
The valuations were correct, the construction contracts were correct. It was just that the addresses were transposed on your spreadsheet.
Mistakes happen.
Well, I apologize for that. I don't normally do that, but I guess maybe it had to do with the addresses being so similar, but I do apologize for that.
There's no apology necessary. The only people that don't make mistakes are people who don't do anything, so that's not a problem.
Well, I appreciate that.
There's no change in the total dollar amount or anything like that?
There is per the two contractors, and the total dollar amount of what was awarded, no.
Okay, so we don't need to change anything. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Well, probably your minutes may want to reflect that now VO Corn, their total dollar amount is different than what was previously stated.
Okay.
If you look between the two pages.
Between D.O. Corn and Son and
Dunsel.
Dunsel. Correct.
Yes,
The
yes.
records reflect that.
Okay. I also have one other thing. With Indiana Housing, the county has to have authorized signature form that is established with Indiana Housing. Since the commissioner president and the auditor positions have both changed, we need to do a new signature form. I have it here. Normally it's the commissioner president that signs it, and then the auditor. And this is for any paperwork that has to be submitted to Indiana Housing. They will check back and make sure that the document that I have signed, the signature on it, reflects this one form.
Okay.
So if you guys want to sign that, I can notarize it if you want to, and I can also give you, Gertrude, a copy of that.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take care of that for you.
So that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate
We
it.
do have a contractor, D.O. Corn and Son, has started on 2 addresses so far already.
That's good.
So hopefully we can move it along fairly quickly. We also are needing more applicants. These applicants must be in the unincorporated areas of Fayette County. I have been working with Marion on, trying to get something in his area. So I just want to publicly put out there that we are looking probably 2 to 3 applicants
Okay.
additional.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Retirement insurance clarification. Is that
Ms. King?
you or is she Kim here to speak?
She said she was coming, but she's not here.
But it's
Okay.
going on.
All right,
Oh,
great.
Then I want a copy if not possible.
I had that.
I'm
thing.
sorry. I've got it right here.
I think we spent a lot of time the month of January trying to clarify the policy for Fayette County's retirement insurance. As long as one of the employees is still an active employee, we cannot offer retirement insurance to a retired employee. The problem was in Kim and Daryl's case that Kim has a much better rate of, not reimbursement, but her rate for her insurance was a better percentage than Daryl's would be at the time he retired. We have several employees, so this is not just specific to these 2 employees, it's for any Fayette County employee. And this is to clarify the retirement insurance policy for county employees. When there are 2 members of family on county insurance, they remain on the active employees policy until the second one retires. They will be eligible for county insurance at the rate in the policy of the longest employed person. This document will be on file in the auditor's office with the payroll person. There really was nothing in the retirement policy that explained what would happen, and Kim's been employed a lot longer than Daryl, so she wasn't wanting to pay. His would be 40 or 35% or 30% according to how long he stays employed with the county, while hers is only 15% would be her share, and the county pays 85%. And it seems fair to me and to the other commissioners that the only way to clarify this is that she stays on his because he's an active employee, so we can't offer him retirement insurance. So Kim's going to be on the active employees insurance as long as he is an active employee. Once he retires, she would be eligible for hers. And this is the same in the case of several other current employees of Fayette County. We want to be fair, that they would get the best rate available when the 2 of them are retired. But at any time that they're both still active employees, they have to go on the active employee. We can't have 3 or 4 policies on one individual. That's just against the state law for one thing. But basically, this is to clarify so that everyone knows that when they retire, that after both people are retired, they will get the best deal possible, courtesy of Fayette County. Thank you.
Okay, what's proposed here is what Mrs. King just read. And I think the procedure should be, we will approve this pending the approval by our attorney and by the company that wrote our handbook, Irwin and Shield, and there's another name in there, and pending approval by them for the wording and just approval that we're not violating any laws or any administrative rules. So, to that effect, Kim, I'm sorry, do you have questions? Okay.
Do you know when that's going to take place?
Well, just as soon as we get notification that our attorney and Mr. Wagner, Irwin, and Shield, Mr. Irwin is our contact person, so we will send this to him probably today or tomorrow and get his information back. We should be able to report something back, excuse me, at our next meeting
I just don't want to become a permanent fixture here.
I
To find
understand.
out.
I understand. So with that in mind, is there a motion on the floor to approve the resolution quoted by Mrs. King pending approval by Wagner, Irwin, and Shield and our attorney?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion. There's a second. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Give that to Chris, please. Right. Mr. Gully for the downhill derby.
Here this morning for the Lions Club Downhill Derby, and as we try to keep this as an annual event, we would like to ask your permission to close the Ziegler Hill again this year from June the 17th to June the 21st. And on June the 17th, we'd like to close it at noon. Last year, we were finished racing on Sunday and completely tore down and had the road open back by 5 o'clock. So that would be our goal again for this year. We just would like to have your permission to do that.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the request by Mr. Gully to close Ziegler Hill from June 17th through June 21st. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Question?
I just notify all emergency agencies.
Will do. And last year, the street department furnished roadblocks and stuff and outlays, so.
Okay. If you need something from our department, feel free. Okay.
We thank you guys for all your cooperation on this in the past too. It's worked out very well.
Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. It's better you to present it than your partner there. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Okay, Commissioner Bedore, you have something to say?
One of our last commissioner meetings, I made a motion to change the appointment process for Fayette County for all appointed positions in the county, in the effect that when a county commissioner comes on, they have the ability to monitor the appointed positions for up to 6 months if there's any problems or things that need to be presented. I rescinded my motion because the attorney had to look at it, and he has advised us that it is legal for us to change the position. So my motion is today to change all appointments for Fayette County for June 7th, 2016. So the next appointment for all appointments will be June 7th of 2016.
Okay, so your permanent motion is to approve appointments to the first meeting of the commissioners in June of each year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there a question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 3 ayes. I'm going to skip to one thing right here, patron concerns. Mary?
Frank, I'd like to ask this board to continue to work on the PA system in this room. As your constituents are getting older every day, some of them are really...
Not just the constituents.
I can't hear hardly anything anymore, so I do have a hard time hearing you, and if we had something a little better, sometimes your voice carries pretty good, and sometimes, just sometimes it doesn't. So
we have been working on it, but we'll endeavor to get something actually in place as soon as possible.
I appreciate that on my part.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. In the new business, we need the approval of the 2015 pay schedule. It's merely a formality. It's the pay periods, ending of the pay periods, and the pay date for that period. So is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we accept this pay schedule.
Motion and a second to approve the pay schedule presented by the auditor. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Is there a motion for the approval of payroll and claims?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve payroll and claims. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 3 ayes. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. Meeting's closed. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen.